What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of Just a Minute. I'm Austin Smith. The gentleman next to me is Justin Young, who is our editor-in-chief here at hoopscene.com, and we're back again for this week's edition. JY, man, it's always good to be back, brother. Graduation season is kind of coming to an end almost, man. What's the latest, brother? How we feeling?
You know, it's weird. I just went to my oldest daughter's high school graduation. So usually this time of year is interesting where you always kind of get introspective on the class. Like for me, it became even more real as a father of a graduate. I had to really kind of pivot my thinking a little bit that I also have a class of 21 graduate as well. And so it really got me thinking a lot about this class of 21 nationally at a national level, the things these guys had to go through, these students had to go through, distance learning, hybrid learning, in-person learning, to sports, to no sports, and all these different things that happen. Man, what a wild year and a half it's been for these kids. And I'm just really happy for all of them that have graduated, that have made it to the end of their journey at the high school level. I promise you better days are coming. And I hope that that's the case, but yeah, I really got introspective with this class, and I think it's a perfect time to kind of tie this class up all together and move forward now to the 22 class and beyond 23 as well. So, but yeah, great class in 21, man.
For sure. So let's go ahead and wrap it up, Jay. While we don't have to take too much time, man, let's do it. 2021, the class of 2021, rather, is coming to an official close. But let's go ahead and hit home a big point here. Let's talk about some national rankings.
Yeah.
Because we want to go through our hoop scene top 10 a little bit. So let's go through that with you first, man. Tell us a little bit about some of the guys you got in your top 10 for the national
rankings.
rankings.
So we're butting it. We're putting a button on it. We're tying it all up. We're putting it under the tree. Like it's done. The class of 21 is final. We've got our final rankings right now on hoopscene.com for the class of 21 nationally. Our final top 10 is as follows. Let's walk it back. Let's start at 10 and work our way down to number 1. Should we do that? Let's do that.
No, brother. I'm with it.
Number 10 overall is Duke commit AJ Griffin. Number 9 is going to be Scoot Henderson. Number 8, who also moved up recently, graduated early to be part of the G League. We talked about him last week. So Scoot Henderson, guy that we're very familiar with at Hoop Scene, is number 9 overall. Number 8 overall is Moussa Diabate down at IMG Academy, who's headed to Michigan. Coming in before him before him is Patrick Baldwin out of Milwaukee. He's going to go play for his father, a major commitment for University of Milwaukee, Wisconsin at Milwaukee. His dad's the head coach there, Patrick Baldwin Sr. Number 6 overall is one of my all-time favorite competitors I've ever covered, and that's Kennedy Chandler, the Tennessee commitment that really had a tremendous season at Sunrise Hoops. Number 5 overall is Caleb Houston, who's also going to Michigan. So you've got 2 top 10 players going to the University of Michigan, play for Juwan Howard. Caleb Houston, the Canadian, had an unbelievable career at Montverde, tremendous shooter. Number 4 overall is Jabari Smith. We know him very, very well. He's on the south side of Atlanta down at Sandy Creek High School. Going to go play for Bruce Pearl and the Auburn Tigers. Really one of the most versatile guys that we have in the class of 2021. And this is where things start to get a little interesting, Austin. Ooh. It's going to go a little against the norm for what we've seen with the composite rankings for the industry. But I've got Chet Holmgren actually at number 3 overall. Probably one of the most unique guys we've ever covered. And people say, well, why would you have him at number 3 and not number 1 like a lot of people do? We're going to obviously talk about that here in just a minute today. And that means number 2 is Jaden Hardy, a guy that I've been a long proponent for. We've had conversations and stories on the site that why can't he be the number 1 guy in the class, which ultimately brings us to number 1 overall. And my number 1 overall player in the class of 2021 is none other than Paolo Banchero out of Seattle, the Duke commit. And there's a lot of reasoning that went into that. I saw him a lot this past high school season, but that's our top 10. So let me run it back now from 1 to 10 so we can recount it. Okay. Paolo Banchero is number 1. Jaden Hardy's number 2. Chet Holmgren's number 3. Jabari Smith is number 4. Caleb Houston, number 5. Number 6 is Kennedy Chandler. From there, we go Patrick Baldwin at number 7. Number 8 is going to be Moussa Diabate. Number 9 is Scoot Henderson. And number 10 is AJ Griffin, who's headed to Duke. So that's our overall top 10. You can see that now on hoopscene.com and go check it out. Oh, it's a lot to take in right there.
It is, but it's a great list to have nonetheless. J.Y., so look, I'm going to go back, bro. I want to go back to it because there's people are going to ask questions, man.
Sure, as they should.
Before I say this, I've seen you personally tweet and talk about Paolo Banchero a lot.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of his game. But we know, too, that Chet Holmgren got a lot of national attention over the past year.
Yeah.
What was your reasoning at putting Paolo Banchero number 1 and Chet Holmgren at number 3?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I think there are 4 guys, actually, that you could make an argument for in this class for number 1. I felt that way for quite a while now. I think you've got those two guys we've talked about. We've got Jaden Hardy as well, Chet Holmgren, and then we also need to include Jabari Smith. And so Jabari, so let's rewind it back to the fall, to the Pangos festival that they ran actually here in Phoenix. All those guys were there. Jaden Hardy didn't come, but Chet was there, Paolo was there, and Jabari was there. And to me, it was the best. For this class, we had very limited opportunity to see these elite players play, and we talk about apples to apples all the time in this segment. This was the best opportunity we had to have all these guys together. And I thought Jabari actually played the best out of all of those guys in the moment. And so from there, I saw Chet Holmgren play a lot on TV. I saw him play here in Phoenix at the Border League. I saw him at other things throughout the season. I think Chet Holmgren is a phenomenal prospect with upside higher than anybody in this class. There's no denying that whatsoever. He's got some Kevin Durant length. His shot blocking is elite. I do worry about the physicality of the game. Like, I was at the Suns-Lakers game 5 last night, watching the Lakers get destroyed by the Suns, which we can, you can read into that. I'm trying to stay non-biased as much as possible, but if you know me, I'm really happy about that game 5 win for the Suns. But the Lakers are so big. Andre Drummond is so big. Marc Gasol is so big. LeBron James is so big. Okay. DeAndre Ayton is so big. DeAndre looked really small compared to that front line of the Lakers. So when you look at the NBA level, and I think we talk about this a lot at the preps level. Oh, he's a pro. Never really, and I think a lot of people say that and don't really ever spend a lot of time at the pro level. And I'm like, that is a different world of giants at the NBA level. And that's my number one concern with Chet Holmgren is the physicality of it. He's so thin. He's pin thin. Okay. He's pin thin. And so how long will that transition take for him? And does a guy like Paolo Banchero or even Jaden Hardy or even Jabari Smith make a quicker transition into the pro level because they can handle the physical rigors of that league? So that's what holds me back a little bit with Chet Holmgren. I mean, shoot, the guy's number 3. Okay. To me, this is one of the deepest classes that we've had at the top. But I think that physicality is what keeps me a little bit on pause with Chet Holmgren not at the top. So that's the argument against him not being number 1. What I really need to probably articulate is the argument for Paolo Banchero. When you watched him, like, what did you like about him? Like, I'm curious to hear what you think about him.
Jay, well, my biggest thing with Banchero, man, is that he's a worker, and I think in a winner. I think you really helped me key in on those two phrases, more specifically the winning piece, and then that being a guy that's tough enough and competes at a high level with all the accolades that he has. And so simply put, that's what I keyed in on when you get to that.
Yeah. And I think you're spot on. Right. And so he played at the grind session and really had a tremendous season with BFL prep. He was matched up against Mike Foster in a matchup game, a guy that's going to go play straight from preps to the G League. Every chance that Paolo Banchero could play, he played. And every chance he could compete, he competed. And let's go back to that camp in October that I'm actually putting a lot of weight into, is that he got beat that camp. Jabari really gave him a hard time. Chet gave him a hard time. And from that day forward, I've not seen Paolo struggle quite like he did. And in a way, I actually kind of appreciate that struggle a little bit because you saw this opportunity for growth. Yeah. And not only did he succeed in that, he exceeded within that growth as well. And I think that, to me, when you look at a guy like Paolo Banchero, how much can he make a transition to the next level based on how much can he retain and can he grow and adapt his game? Okay. So now we just learned right before we got recording that Mike Krzyzewski is going to retire after the end of the season. So Paolo Banchero is going to get the last season of under Coach K, and he's going to go play there. And I think Paolo's wired the right way. I think he wants to get better. I think he wants to compete. I think he's really, really locked in. And so for me, like, he didn't have a bad day from October until here we are now, June 1st, as far as what I saw on the court. That consistency, and I think his ability to translate his game from the high school game to the college game, from the college game to the pro game, I think he's going to make the most seamless transition along the way. Is why I think he's the number 1 guy. But again, I think this class is as deep as it's been in maybe 15 years. I love the guys at the top. I think you have a lot of guys that are going to be really good pro players. I don't know if any of them are going to be franchise all-star every year kind of guys, but guys that are going to be playing in the playoffs because they're competitors. And so for me, that's why Paolo is number 1, and that's why I don't have Chet. Well, that's why I have Paolo above Chet. And then Jaden Hardy, who we haven't even talked about yet, is my number 2 guy.
Man, Yeah, Jaden's pretty special as well. But no, that makes sense. I get it. I mean, and again, like you said, everybody's kind of interchangeable. So
Yeah,
it's a hard battle, that top 3 spot.
it is. And Jaden Hardy to me is like, I love Jalen Green. Like I talked to an NBA guy at length, probably like we had a 2-hour conversation about like this class and about a guy like Jalen Green, about some of the guys that are currently in the G League. Mm-hmm. And Jalen Green to me is one of the most exciting players I've ever covered. I love Jalen Green. I think he's going to be a multi-all-star in the NBA. I think he's going to be the kind of kid that little kids go buy baseball cards about or basketball cards. Like, he's got a huge personality. He's going to be like a sponsorship guy. Like, I love what Jalen Green's going to be as a pro, from game to personality, all that stuff. Like, I'm pro Jalen Green. I think Jaden Hardy really isn't that far behind him, honestly. Jaden Hardy to me is the most electric scorer that I've seen. That guy, you saw him on TV, right?
Oh my gosh.
Like he's a guy you record or you watch live.
Yeah.
You got to go watch him play. So now he's going to go pro. And so, like, when I saw him at the Border League, in fact, you can probably go back and find stuff on the internet of what they played in the Border League. Go watch him play in that league, and go watch anything that he played at with Air NATO. The guy's phenomenal. The guy's an absolute, and I hate to be so cliche, the guy is a bucket, man.
He is. You know, here's some funny deal. Like last night, Damian Lillard just had the crazy 50.
Yeah, right.
Like, every shot was like, oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Exactly.
Same way watching Jaden Hardy, like you said, at Arenado. And when I think he had like 35, it was just like bucket after bucket. It was insane, man.
Bro, I'm at the game last night. Like, it got kind of out of hands, like a 30-point game. I got freaking YouTube TV pulled up on my phone watching Clippers and Nuggets. And my wife's like, what are you doing? We're here. Like, I'm like, no, this Dame Lillard, it's Dame time. It's Dame time. And but I actually like that. I think Jaden Hardy's got a little Dame in him. Mm-hmm. I love that. Actually, I think that's a great call on your part.
I'm trying, man.
I love that.
I'm trying. Okay, so let's do this, Jay. So we got your top 10 as far as prospects.
Let me chime in one more thing about Jabari Smith, because I think I'd be remiss if I didn't include him in this elite group. Because I don't know if he could be number 4 in the country and be a little underrated, but I think Jabari is a little bit. I don't think he had the high school season that I think he was hoping maybe that he had. And, you know, like, every state was different. So we didn't see him on TV in comparison to these other guys. So it kind of went under the radar a little bit. Like, if you can be a top 5 guy, I think he's the most versatile, actually, of these guys defensively. Like, I think he can really, really guard. Like, he gave Paolo some fits back at the Pangos camp. And Jabari Smith was, without a doubt, the best player that weekend of this elite group. And I think Jabari going to play for Bruce Pearl at Auburn.
Big too, right?
That's huge, because look at Bruce Pearl's history of guys at that position. I actually see a ton of Tobias Harris in Jabari Smith's game. Okay. And Tobias Harris, I think any team in the NBA would love to have him on their roster. The guy's a phenomenal NBA player. Yeah. Well, so I see a lot of that with him. And so I want to make sure that I'm always including him in this group, because I think this 4 is a really tough and interchangeable 4 that I think any other year those guys could all be number 1 on their own accord. I feel strongly about that I don't want to keep him out of that.
No, I agree with you. Like, and again, I'm not trying to just keep it grand, but like Jabari Smith, if you've ever watched him play, like you said, he doesn't get a lot of notoriety. I mean, he's playing at Benton Creek is not the biggest classification in Georgia, you know, so even there, you know, that's that. But also with Jabari, you talk about the versatility piece. That's on defense and that's on offense too. You know, he does things offensively. He shoots the deep ball. You know, he can bring it up if he needs to. So you give Bruce Pearl another piece with that versatility to build with, man, he's going to get the Auburn and development's going to skyrocket.
Yeah. I mean, look what Chuma Okeke did at Auburn, right? And how he grew his game. And there's actually a lot of similarities to what Jabari brings to the table that Chuma brought to the table. I think Jabari is a lot further along than what Chuma was. But Jabari Smith, man, like, he can block shots. He can shoot. Like, his 3-point shot has got so much better. He's just going to do the work. He's a super quiet, like, humble kid. I think he fits in this group really, really well. Really, really well. Anyways, I just want to make sure I got that in there when we're talking about these 4 guys.
Gotta show love to the ATL kid. No, nothing wrong with that, Dick. Let's move on real quick. Okay, so talk about your top 10, but I need 3 right now. Out of that top 10, which 3 guys are going to be the best pros?
Yeah, so which I may contradict myself, because I think Scott ceiling wise, Chet Holmgren could be the best NBA guy because he's got this unique length. Like, again, like I was watching Andre Drummond last night. Like, I'm not saying Chet Holmgren's Andre Drummond at all, but like I remember watching Andre Drummond in high school.
Oh my bro.
And I don't remember him. I would never have thought he would have grown and developed into this massive man that he is now. He's huge.
Yep.
He's huge.
Yeah, he's huge. Yeah.
And so, like with Chet, I don't think his body type is the type that he's going to get like bulky and all that. But like going to Gonzaga is going to be really interesting because like how they're going to use him.
Right.
Is he going to be, you know, like how, like who is he going to be when he comes in the NBA? Right? Like, is he going to be one of the top shot blockers his entire career? Why can't he be? Right? Why can't he be? Or do we have more of a bull route where like he's, like Bull's a big time, shot blocker and a 3-point shooter. So like, there's still been a lot of things, but ceiling wise, I still think that he's a huge ceiling for Bull. But like with Chet, I think his upside is substantial, right? Like he could be like a really unique guy. Like I said, I think Jaden Hardy could be an all-star potentially in the NBA just because he's so exciting. Yeah. I think I actually love your Dame Lillard. Love your Dame Lillard comp on that. I love it. Obviously Paolo. I really am interested in Caleb Houston, who's going to Michigan because of his 3-point shooting ability. He's got a unique skill. He's got great length. 6'9", can really, really shoot. I think for him, I could see him fitting a role like Robert Horry on those really great early, 2000s, late 90s championship teams. Robert Horry found a role in the NBA and won a lot of rings because he could shoot and he had great length. I think Caleb Houston's going to be a really interesting guy. I'm not sure he would be a super, well, it depends on your definition of super high pick, but like he may be a late lottery guy who like goes to the right team that's going to be a really important player in a playoff run because he can really shoot. Right. So I love Caleb Houston's value there. But I mean, yeah, that top of that list. And then Scoot Henderson, like I think he's going to be a really interesting guy going to the G League, particularly playing off of a guy like Jaden Hardy, right? Like how are those guys going to play off of each other because they're both so wired to score? Imagine those practices, Austin.
Practices, the one-on-ones. Oh, the one-on-one.
That's going to be dope, man.
I know, man. I already know it is.
So I think the top of this list falls pretty hand in hand with the NBA guys for sure.
Okay. All right. So let's get an outlier. Who's one guy we all need to watch? Talk to us.
I actually have more outliers than I probably do the answer to the first one.
Really? Okay.
I love Matthew Cleveland, man. I think it's pretty evident. Like we saw a lot of growth in his game. I think, isn't it amazing like the value you get when you pick the right school?
It does wonders for you, man. What they call it? New bloods. That's what it is at Florida State?
Yeah.
Well,
it's perfect. He's going to the wing whisperer, right? With Leonard Hamilton and his staff.
At this point, yeah, might as well, yeah.
So, like, I think Matthew Cleveland's going to the right place. And he's a top 20 guy, right? Like, he's not a sleeper per se. He's a top 20 guy. He's going to the right place. I think defensively he's going to cause a lot of problems, particularly at Florida State's going to get a lot better there. Every year in high school, from his freshman year at Cambridge High School to his senior year at Pace Academy, to where he's going down to Tallahassee to go play for really one of the best developing staffs there is in college basketball, and guys that develop guys into pros, like legit pros. I love the trajectory of Matthew Cleveland as an outlier. That actually, when I was doing my final rankings, I said, why don't I just put him in our top 10? If I really believe that, why don't I just put him in top 10? Okay. So I go back and forth. Like I may look back and regret not putting Matthew Cleveland in our top 10. And I don't want to come off as a homer, but I actually kind of believe that. Like if you think he's going to be a pro, then put him in your top 10. So I don't know. By the time this comes out, I may have reshifted our rankings around and put him there at the back end of the rankings. What do you think? Should I do that?
Hey man, look, you always want to be ahead of the curve. So if you say he's a pro early, you got him in there. Look good on your part, J1.
I know. Well, I kind of believe it. So, and the other guy too is Efton Reed, who's going to LSU, big 7-footer down at IMG Academy. I watched him a lot this year on film. Really, really skilled. Got a lot better. IMG, that's a really special place for guys if they want to become a pro. He played on their post grad team. I think he's going to be a stud. Have you watched the Wizards much in the playoffs? They're playing the Sixers in the first round.
A little bit. I haven't watched the Wizards. A couple games.
Okay, so they play on tonight. We're recording this on Wednesday. They play tonight on Wednesday night. Watch Daniel Gafford. Daniel Gafford came out of Arkansas.
Yeah.
A tremendous pick for them. And he's really coming on strong. I think Efton Reed could be very similar to what we've seen with Daniel Gafford, who's going to be a 12.8 rebound kind of guy, I think, in the NBA. I think Efton Reed could also be one of those guys that has that type of career trajectory. LSU got a really, really good player, but I think Daniel Gafford is a great comp because of the development that he made at the pro level. And I think Efton Reed will make a similar path for himself. Really, really smart, sharp young man too, that I think will handle the rigors of the NBA. But those are my two non-top 10 outliers. I mean, they're both in most people's top 30, but I really like those guys a lot that will fit that category.
Yeah, outlier. Just because the players are outlier. And the full disclaimer, just because the players are outlier does not mean I have game. Like, obviously, JY just told y'all they're in the top 30, man. And these are just guys that you more than likely will be seeing playing on pro television, playing pro basketball.
I mean, actually, I do have one more. So Muhammad Gaye, who's played a prolific prep. He's going to Washington State. He just reclassed. He's a guy that I think could also be another guy. Like Washington State, not a place like Klay Thompson's really the guy. CJ Ellaby that plays with Trailblazers, both went there. But I think Muhammad Gaye, who reclassed, maybe a guy as well that's an outlier, that's outside maybe the top 50, that could also be a guy. I just saw him a couple weeks ago in Las Vegas. Still has a ways to go, but I think long-term he's another guy that could be really, really special.
Wow. Dang, man. JY, 2021 class is really coming to an end, bro. This is like the end of it.
I don't know if anybody's happier that it's coming to the end than the kids in the class of 21.
You're ready to go. It was a long year, man. Their last 2 years of high school were like crazy.
Yeah, I know my daughter, speaking for her as a 21 grad, she's like, good riddance, man. I'm out. See ya. Well,
we'll definitely, man, as always, be following this class of 2021 because they will definitely be doing great things the next level. And we look forward to seeing them progress. All right.
So I agree.
Next week, man, Pangos camp. All right. And we know you'll be there for that, man. Tell us any prior thoughts or things like that. We're going to tackle that more next week, but.
Yeah, I think so. So I'm headed up there on Sunday. So Sunday through Tuesday is the Pangos All-American Camp. NBA scouts can come out to that. I know Dinos Chernogis, the camp organizer, said that he's got, last I checked, probably half the league already confirmed for that. There'll be tons of national media there. I think – so last night at the Suns game, I keep going back to it, was packed, full capacity. And I think we're finally going to see, like, this will be the first, like, probably full capacity, like, major national event with national players that we've had in 18 months. And so, like, I'm really excited to see, like, what kind of energy comes off of that. Like, last night, there was a different energy in that building. Of course, it was game 5 in the NBA playoffs. I'm not comparing that to the Pangos All-American Camp. But, like, there is a different energy that's out there for these type of when you have people back in the building and we're kind of going back to full capacity. I'm, like, really interested to see how guys play off of that. I hope they don't get too gassed and, like, too excited that they maybe extend themselves a little too much. But I think it's a great opportunity to set the narrative for the class of 22, the class of 23, maybe even some class of 24 guys at the national level as we now get into what I think is going to be an unbelievable 2 weeks or 2 months with June and July with scholastic events happening in July or June. And as we really start to unveil like get into what we're going to do in July, I think that's going to set the tone for the national conversation for so many guys. Pangos campus is going to carry a lot of weight because we don't have Nike Elite 100. We don't have USA Basketball that we can see in person and media stuff. So I think this camp is going to be so big to really kind of set the narrative off of that too. So I know for me, it's going to carry a ton of weight. Like I've been working on my rankings. I've been flying a lot and I've got this notepad and I'm just like writing stuff down. And I'm like, okay, well, we know 2 things. Jalen Duren and Monty Bates are number 1 and number 2 in the class of 22. And then from there, I mean, I keep like, I don't know, maybe move him to here. So like this camp will be a good opportunity to see where guys are at in the pecking order. And I look forward to filling out my list and, like for the All-American teams that we vote for. So like, it's a huge weekend. We'll have a lot to talk about next week. So if you don't already subscribe to Hoop Scene TV, I would recommend that you do that right now. Turn that notification bell on. So when you post this, Austin, people can get it. They can see it and they can hear it right away.
You heard the man. Make sure y'all subscribe to Hoop Scene TV right now on YouTube. And man, we look forward to bringing you all the latest and greatest from hoopscene.com each and every week. JY, it's been a pleasure, man. Congrats to your daughter on graduating. That's a huge accomplishment, so kudos to her on
Let's
that.
just see how much gray there is now here. And by the time, it's just going to escalate because that's
the hair is slick, man. It's fresh today, bro. You good?
Oh, hey, man, shout out to my barber. See if she gives me a hookup. Maybe I'll give her a real name shout out next time.
Facts. Well, JY, thanks for your time, man. Hey, everyone, you've officially tuned into another edition of Just a Minute. As always, I'm your Hoop Scene host, and the guy next to me on the screen is our editor-in-chief at hoopscene.com, Justin Young. JY, thanks for your time, brother.
Thanks, Austin.